Hello everybody, welcome back to Red Tool House. In this video I want to talk about when is it smart to walk away from land that you're thinking about buying for homesteading. So let's jump into it.
In 2000, we bought an abandoned 100-acre farm in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. We spent years cleaning it up, built a new house, and now are trying to make it a functional homestead farm. Welcome to Red Tool House.
Okay, so what are some things that should make you run away from buying land? Well, the one thing you really want to look at and be super cautious of is when you find something like this. So what exactly are we looking at here? I know everything's brown, so you may not be able to appreciate the depth of what's going on. Well, we're standing at the edge of a pretty good sized slip. Now this is on my homestead, this is my property, this is on the back part of the property. And right here, to some of you flatlanders, I'll kind of describe what we've got going on here. So right here where this bench is, this higher area, this used to be my road. I used to have a road that came right through here. And we're pretty high up on the mountain. In fact, we're at the last bench before you crest the mountain. Well, what happened is, pretty abruptly, this all broke away and slid down. So this clearing that you see here has absolutely nothing to do with me clearing anything. I haven't cut any trees. I haven't done anything like that. It was just everything moving. So you can see just a swath cut, like an avalanche you'd expect to see it in the mountains of snow. This was an avalanche of dirt and mud and everything just went on down. And this happened about 7 years ago. So you can see some of the sycamore, of course, they're very prolific. They're starting to grow and kind of reestablish a base here. But so all of this moved, and I didn't get to see it. The only thing that I knew that it was possibly going to happen is one day I was up here on my road and I noticed there were some cracks in the road getting pretty large. And that's pretty indicative that the land's going to move. Now this side of our valley, this is our south ridge that faces north, has a history of slips. When I bought the property, I noticed there were some slips over in these other areas. So why would I say walk away from this, and why didn't I when I saw the history of that? Well, I knew where I was going to build down on the other side of the valley, that area had no slip evidence. This area was prone for slipping, so I knew, okay, I can't really plan on building any permanent structures over here because this hillside's going to keep moving. So that's one thing to consider if you're looking at land, especially if you're in some rolling hill type setups. Does it have a history of slipping? So you want to look as you're walking through the woods like we are. If you're in a natural Appalachian forest or anything that's got a lot of growth on it, if you come across this real uneven terrain, something that just looks odd, and it's denuded of trees, or maybe there's just some small saplings, there's not even any stumps, then that should be a big red flag. And again, you'll see other elements like breakaways. There's parts where the ground is broken away. You'll see some trees that have really bad leans to it, like this sugar maple. It's still alive, but it slipped. It used to sit about right here. So it rode about 20 feet down the mountain and didn't sever a taproot there. So it was able to survive, but you can see some of these trees really have a bad gangster lean to them. And like I said, this moved well over 100 yards down the mountain, took out 2 benches and even blocked my road down at the bottom. So what caused this all to move? Well, I'm no geologist, but a lot of it obviously deals with water and with soil type. Again, West Virginia, we don't have a lot of rocky mountains. Our mountains are all covered in hardwood forest. They're all covered in clay, dirt, whatever the case may be. Well, in this situation, it's a combination of both. This was really heavy clay over here, but there's a rock base underneath. In fact, right over here at this vertical part, you can see there's an exposed rock face now. So that's all sandstone. And there's clay on top with trees and other things. Those trees, their taproots can't get down into that sandstone, of course. So you can imagine there's this layer of rock with all this mud and heavy weight on it. Well, then there's also a spring right here behind us, just a small spring that comes out of the ground, and that brings water down. Of course, it makes all that clay super, super wet as it soaks in there, gets it wet, gets it super heavy. And then, sure enough, as soon as the conditions are right, it just all moves. So it just all took off. I'd love to have seen it when it happened. It'd probably been the scariest thing you'd ever seen, as much ground moved all at once. But it just has a shearing effect. So where I'm standing right now, there's still the evidence of that spring. There's a lot of moss here. You can see I'm slipping in the mud, a lot of mud, and we're really, like I said, really high on the mountain. It is really, really wet here. But then we see some exposed rock here and there, some of the shearing, some of the face that it's sheared off on. So it's one of those things, again, you would never want to build around this. I wouldn't want to build above it because more could come down, and I wouldn't want to build below it because obviously it could come down and take out what you've built there. So that's something to look at. If you find a nice piece of land on a hillside, something you think, man, this is really nice, and there's any evidence of slipping, then that's something you may want to run away from, because that's something that can ruin your day. There's some insurance issues and things like that that may not even cover a landslide like that if there was evidence prior to you buying the land. So is there anything that you can do to prevent slips if you see some evidence of that on your property, or you're afraid that may happen? Well, there really isn't much other than just trying to get water keep it from standing in an area. Like right here, I'm in a low spot on my road. The slip is right behind me. This is a low spot, and I can tell by just how it's laid out that this holds water. So this could eventually promote a slip. So ideally, if I came in here and I cut a water bar, or I cut a ditch to get the water that's coming off the mountain to just go on over, then it could possibly keep that from slipping. But you're really chasing your tail there. You'll hear people say, again, just move that water off and that'll take care of it. But there's so many other factors that go into that. So what do I do? How am I going to take care of this situation with this slip now that my road, I've got this really nice road here that I use to get access to a spot of the property. What do I do? How do I fix that slip? Well, other than bringing some heavy equipment in and driving in piers and doing some slip abatement there's really not much I can do. It's basically just take the road somewhere else. So I could maybe go up the mountain a little higher and try to come around. I could maybe come up and tie into my neighbor's road and just use it and come down the spine of the ridge. Or I could just reopen the lower road. So this is pretty much going to be a dead end. It's really not worth a lot of effort to bring in a lot of equipment, because I have other ways to get to that spot. So not a game changer there as far as that goes, but it's just one of those aggravations. Of course, you have that moving and you think, wow, that's something I'm really going to have to stay away from this spot, not do anything here. Even you worry about putting fence and livestock in here, because if it all slips, I wouldn't think you have a chance of killing your livestock, but at least your fencing could get slipped away there. So definitely something to consider. Okay, I'm here at the base of the slip, and again, I'm standing on all that overburden, all this material that came down to this bench and stopped here at this lower level. And this is all mud. It's very uneven, very soft. You can see there's places where there have been puddles of water. And right here is the end of the break. So this ground here, now I'm on the actual ground of the bench. This is ground that came down and stopped right here. So you can see that this was my road going through. You can see how this got blocked so badly. It's had all these trees, a lot of poplar trees that came down. These are the original trees, obviously they didn't move. This ground I'm standing on is ground that didn't move, but all of this that came down pushed these trees, the ones that are down, through here, and they were under some serious tension. So when this first happened, I thought, I'm gonna get here and try to cut this stuff out. And just coming in and cutting some of the limbs out, realized, no, this is not a good idea, because there was so much tension from all that weight coming down. Those trees were bowed up, and sticking a chainsaw in them would have been a really bad idea. So I just left them. Again, I can get to different spots of the property without having to come through here. Not as convenient, but I left them. And now they've rotted well enough that I should be able to get in here with a chainsaw, or even just using the box blade on the tractor, and just push all this out of the way now. And probably just leave that mound of dirt where it is. Not mess with trying to move it. I could possibly come in and try to dig it out and relocate it in some of these lower spots, but it has so much material in it, and there's trees growing back on it, so I'll just let it be what it is. So the takeaway from all this, of course, is if you're looking to buy land and you're not a flatlander, again, I can't speak to landslides when it comes to flatlanders, and those sinkholes becomes an issue in flat ground, but if you're looking to buy land that's hillside or has some mountain elements to it, be sure to take a walk around and look and just see if there's any sign of slips. Again, look for some of those large cracks, look for a history of uneven ground with weird leaning trees. And you really want to take that into consideration, because if that slip is anywhere near where you'd build a house, then that could be a showstopper for you. That may be where you want to pump the brakes and say, nope, this land's not for me. Let's keep looking for something else. All right, everybody. Well, I hope you like this video. One reminder, this is the last week, the end of this month, is when we're cutting off the survey, and we're going to do our drawing for our StormTech Parka. So if you haven't taken the survey, go to the link up here to make sure you do that. It's just a 10-question survey about homesteading, your goals for homesteading and kind of where you're at. And again, we're going to draw randomly to give away that parka. So check that out. We'll make that announcement at the end of this week, who won the parka, and then we'll start going over the survey results as well. Well, give us a thumbs up if you like this video. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe. And check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Red Tool House Farm. Take care, everybody.